Let's go. Game time. The standard is the standard. That's our motto. That's our creed.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Better Baby Daddy podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, John Latchman,
I am your other co-host, Kelly Burgess.
and today we are sitting down with Jeremy Blackwell, math teacher extraordinaire, and he's going to give some insights as to why he is here on the Better Baby Daddy podcast.
All right. So my name is Mr. Blackwell, like they said. I'm 34 years old. I have currently 3 kids, which would in which would be the reason why I'm here. But yeah, I'm a math teacher. So I've been teaching for the last 3 years. I have 2 kids with my ex-wife, and I have a child with my current fiance. And yeah, thank you guys for inviting me.
Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule with having 3 kids and 2 women that you have to navigate as well on that journey. So let's speak directly to that part of it right there. In the pre-show a little bit, you spoke about, there can be difficulties in navigating essentially 2 separate households. You have 2 children with your ex-wife, and then you have almost like a 1-year-old,
It'll be
right?
one next week.
A 1-year-old with your current fiance. What is that juggling act like?
At times it's a struggle. I have to be on a strict schedule. I get my kids every other weekend for the most part. But I also see them during the week when I can, but then I also see my son every single day that I have with my current fiance. So it's just all about scheduling. I got to make sure I spend time with my kids with her. Spend time with my family, make sure everything doesn't conflict with each other. And I think that's the main thing, is just making sure I cross my T's and dot my I's. That's the main thing.
Yeah, so one thing that we've discovered over the time that we've been talking, and we're on a similar, we were where you were, right? And just to give some context, I don't know if you know a lot about our backstory. I have 10 spread over 3 different relationships. And the youngest is 21, the oldest is 32. And so I remember acutely how tricky it was when the additional kids outside of that first marriage came, and how it just completely shifted everything. Um, how did you manage the communication when things initially were like, oh, okay, I'm going to be a dad with another family? How was the communication when you initially had to navigate that with your ex and say, hey, I'm gonna have some resources I gotta go over here? Were there some things that worked well and some things like, I need to put that back, I need to shelve that, that's not working?
So for the most part, it actually went very smoothly. It went smoother than I imagined. So when we first got a divorce, like, we already had a plan that every other weekend I'll get my kids. And once I had my family over here, nothing really changed. I still get my kids every other weekend. So it really wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. My ex was very understanding. No issues at all, no complications. So I have like that one, I guess, rare, not, I want to say rare, but one, I didn't really have any troubles, for the most
Mhm.
part. Um, so
One of the most difficult parts of that blending process can be the integration of the children to each other.
mhm,
And obviously, the little one's not even 1 yet.
yeah,
So we don't know what he feels like or what he's thinking.
yeah.
But your 2 other children from your previous relationship, was there tension? Was there anxiety that occurred? Was there any type of emotion that you were able to pick up on from them? Like, oh, there's a new woman here and there's a new kid. Are we still as important?
Yeah, actually, I don't think there was, simply because the way we kind of introduced everybody was kind of like gradually. Like, me and my fiance, we were dating for a while before we even introduced her to the kids. She also has kids herself, so she has 3 kids herself. I don't know if I told you guys that. So it's 6 of us total. So with that being said, once she was introduced to my kids were introduced to her kids, and they were always spending time together. They're all around the same age. So that was just amazing. And then once we added a new one, it was like, oh, well, we've already been hanging out with the other kids. What's one more gonna do? So like it kind of just flowed as well as I could possibly imagine. Like I said earlier, it, yeah, that's all I can really say. It just flowed really well. I think the help of her having kids herself, and when they come over here, it's not like awkward. They come over here, they're spending time with me, but then they're also spending time with the kids. Then we're spending time as a family. So I think that helped a lot.
Well, I applaud you on that, brother. That additional layer of, hey, she comes, it's a package, right? It's not just, y'all's kids. She already, had an existing family, and so, as a new stepdad, I mean, essentially, at what point did it click to you like, oh, okay, not only are we having a kid ourselves, but I am entering into another parenting role with double the amount of kids that I have.
um,
Right?
yeah,
More
that's
than
that's
double,
a yeah.
right? And
Oh, go ahead.
yeah, and then, there's some guy attached, unless, there was in vitro, probably wasn't that, but there's some guy attached influencing somewhere. At what point did you say, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and shoulder that, and I know I got to bring these skills to the table to do this well?
Yeah, so it actually clicked pretty quickly because we moved in. Once we moved in together, it was like, I'm about to be with your kids every single day now, and it's something that it doesn't happen overnight. Like, I obviously they had to get used to me, I had to get used to them. But at the end of the day, like, I'm here, and I had no intentions of leaving. So it had to click pretty quickly. Of just that I'm gonna be a stepdad, I'm gonna be blending 2 families together. I had no choice but to just adapt, like, in the moment. Like, this is who I wanna be with. I have no choice but to accept their kids, which I was more than willing to do so. So for me, and that also goes back to my background. I'm sure we'll get to it until later, but me being in the military helped me adapt to situations very quickly. I always tell people one of my favorite sayings or quotes you could say is adapt and overcome. At the same time, like, as soon as I realized that we wanted to be together, we wanted to move in together, I had to adapt to her situation, and I had to overcome any feelings that I might have had, any feelings that might come up, because at the end of the day, this is my new life.
Mhm.
So there's that to answer your question.
Yeah, no, that's good stuff, man. I want to dive a little more into that blending process because that blending process can be chaotic, crazy, full of all kinds of things. And one of the things that can be a little crazy is you're not the same parent as your fiance is. You have different ways of going about things. So she might tell her kids, yeah, go ahead and do that. And you're like, do what? No, they ain't doing that. But then it's not really your place yet to say that. Or is it my place to say that? What was that process like?
Yeah, so that's honestly something we still struggle with today. I it and it's very, very hard, and at times I have to remind myself, like, look, she's been dealing with her kids for the last however many years, and she has a system, and I just can't come here and ruin that system. We
Mm,
have two separate styles of parenting. I'm very strict, and I'm not saying that she's not strict, but at the same time, she was a single mother. She was living with her 3 kids by herself for 5 plus years before I got here. So they didn't have a father figure in the home. Their father is still in their life, but he wasn't actually in the home. So things that were happening in the home, I'm like, whoa, that if I was here, that's not happening. And like in a way, it was like I have to understand where she's coming from. Like, look, I was here handling 3 kids, like, this is what I had to do, but now that I'm here, I'm like, "Okay, now we have to have a conversation because there's certain things that I see that I just personally can't allow, and it just had to be a lot of communication between us, to figure out how to satisfy, how I feel and how parenting should be and how she's been running to the parenting. But like, yeah, we still struggle with it today. It's still a learning process. But with lots of communication, lots of deep breaths and understanding where each person is coming from, we're making it work.
Mm,
Yeah, I was listening to a podcast recently, where it's these dads get together. They're in a barbershop. We They are talking about step parenting, and the last episode I listened to was this one guy. He had actually been incarcerated for 10 years. He got out. He had a relationship with a young lady, and he was getting ready to get married. And so this is him in the barber chair getting ready to getting ready to go to his wedding.
mm,
And he was talking about being ready for marriage, and then the prep and feeling prepared for marriage. And so my question for you, Mr. Blackwell, is how did you prepare to shoulder all that? Because you just wake up and say, hey, I'm a single dad with 2 kids, and I just want to have another kid and then be a stepdad to 3 more kids. And just like, you know, I just made that decision on Monday, and then Friday I got that, it's just plug and play. So what got you prepared? I mean, some cats do, I guess, but you sound like a more reasonable dude, and got things planned out. So what got you prepared to shoulder that responsibility?
I think it was just more of me having kids myself. So like I understand what it is to be a father. I understand what it is to take care of children. And the way we decided to blend our families together, like she didn't meet my kids for the first like six months or so. So by then I already knew like, look, I want to be with you. I can see this lasting for a while. So with that understanding, it was more of like, if I understand that I want to be with you, then I just need to understand that you come along with 3 kids. Because she didn't get pregnant with my son until after the fact. That just kind of just happened. So me understanding that I want to be with her, she has 3 kids. I have 2 kids myself. If she's going to accept my kids, I'm more than willing to accept her kids, then everything will be good. But I think me having kids of myself helped me out a lot.
mm.
Because to be honest, if I never had kids, I'm just gonna be truthful. I wouldn't be able to see myself dating somebody with 3 kids on their own. But with me having kids myself, me just loving kids and kids in general, it was just an easy decision for me.
All right. Well, there's also the other aspect of that blending where you're not just blending you and your current fiance, her kids and your kids, and her and your kids, and you and her kids. You're blending the other man, the other father in the situation. Have you met him? What was that like? Is there tension there? What does that feel like?
So ooh, we can go many different ways with this. So there is actually a lot of tension there.
Okay.
But at the same, but like I understand the tension, even
Uh-huh.
though I don't want there to be tension. I understand where it's coming from. At the same time, like where can I go? So my ex wife, she hasn't introduced any men to my kids, so I don't know what that would be, what that would feel like if she did. Now, on the other aspect, right, I am the first male that she's introduced to the kids that she was dating. Then he of course gets notified, like, look, I'm in a serious relationship. He's gonna be around the kids. And truth be honest, he didn't like that.
Mm,
So there is lots of tension. But at the same time, I think a lot of that's in the past. We don't talk, we don't communicate. She deals with him, and we just leave it there. But I understand where it's coming from. You don't want a random guy around your kids. Same thing. So like backtrack and flipping the story before my fiance met my kids, my ex-wife's stipulation was I have to meet her before she can meet the kids, which is reasonable. We did it. We met at what's it called? The trampoline spot. All the
Mm,
kids showed up, they hung out, the girls talked while I was hanging out with the kids. Once we left, she pretty much was like, "Oh, she's a lovely woman. I blessed her being around the kids."
mm,
And that was great, and that's how everything flowed, and that's why everything went flawlessly. And in the same breath, I had already met the kids, and I also would be willing to meet him, but he wasn't as receiving as I was.
mhm,
So it's a learning process. I think we've got past the I don't even know what the word is. We got past the hard part, but I don't have a relationship with them. I wouldn't mind talking to them because at the end of the day, I'm going to be around his kids. But there is no relationship with them. It was a lot of tension in the beginning. I'll say
mm,
that.
Yeah, that I mean, one of the big thrusts of our podcast is just helping cats understand that that's going to be a thing down the line, right? So once you're in this initial, split up, none of us is monks and going to go to the mountain and be celibate for 50 years generally, right? So there's going to be other relationships in there, and there's going to be men attached to the ladies that we're attached to. And we just want cats to think a little further down the road. Like, put yourself in that position where, how would you meet him? Ideally would it look like? When there is tension, when he flexes and says, "Nah, I don't care what's going on, my kids are not going to do X, Y, and Z," and you and your fiance have a certain way of doing, like being able to role play that before you're in it, because once you're in it and the emotions are high, it's very difficult to manage yourself sometimes unless
mm.
you're very self-aware. And so I applaud you, first of all, on the smooth transition to everything you have. And then, acknowledging that, man, this is an area of tension. Um, what do you
Yeah, I mean,
do?
not to cut you off real quick,
Go
but
ahead.
that is something that I wish someone would have told me before. Like
Mm,
when me and my ex decided to get a divorce, we decided to get a divorce. There was no tension between us. We kind of mutually agreed to just go our separate ways. And I ended up moving out of the house maybe 9 months later. We were living in separate beds. I ended up moving out, but like I was never once told, like, look, eventually it's gonna come that day where you're gonna meet somebody else and she's gonna meet someone else. Like, no one once told me that. Like, I didn't have a father to go back to and ask, like, oh, what was it like when you and my mom got a divorce? Like, because my parents got a divorce when I was young. And I don't speak to my stepdad anymore. So like I didn't have anybody to go up to and be like, oh, what happened? How was it when you met your new wife? Like like as a kid, I remember what happened, but I know as a parent, the feelings would have been different from what I noticed. Because I'm sure my mom and my stepdad, they had plenty of tensions when he got remarried, and then my mom got remarried, and like I just that is like a big point because at the end of the day, I never imagined what it would have been like. Like I'm still waiting for that day where my ex-wife comes up to me like, "Look, I'm in a serious relationship. Is somebody gonna be?" Because my kids are still young. My son is 9, my daughter's 6. So like they're
uh-uh.
still young. Like I'm still waiting for that day where she tells me like, "Look, I'm ready to introduce this man to my kids," and like no one actually tells you like that day is gonna come.
Hey, let me say, I've experienced both sides of the coin. So my oldest, so I have two BMs essentially. Not essentially, I do have two BMs. I don't know what the heck I'm saying, right? And two different kids. And I think you know a little bit of my story, Blackwell.
Yeah, yeah.
And my oldest, when her mother said, "Hey, Alana's gonna be around this guy," my first thought was like, she is like, like that's my first thought. And then next thing I do, I'm a social media detective at that point, right? Finding
Yeah.
out things, looking at this, finding his real name, going on Google searches, paying for like the background checks on people. Like maybe I was a little extreme, but I just feel like I needed to know everything.
Yeah.
Possibly I could know about this person if you're going to be around my daughter. And it was probably even more intense because she's my daughter and not my son. And right,
Yeah.
and you're introducing this man into the situation. So that was extremely difficult. But once I met him, I was like, all right, this cat's cool.
Yeah.
He's a cool dude. And then I did it one time I did the right way, and one time I did it the wrong way. And the first time I did not introduce who would become my second BM to my first BM prior to the kids meeting.
Yeah.
And that caused a volcanic eruption like you wouldn't believe. It was complete chaos. And the second time I was like, all right, this is how I got to go about this.
Yeah.
So once I got into another serious relationship, I was able to say, hey, I want you to meet these women prior to you really meeting the girls.
Yeah. So luckily my ex-wife brought up the idea. Like she
Mm.
kind of already had that in her mind. Like, look, I need to meet her. But like before that never even crossed my mind. Like, cause at the end of the day, this is new territory for me. Like
Yeah.
I'm figuring things out on the fly. And like luckily she did bring up the idea and I was more than willing. It's not like I didn't want her to, like I had no issues with it. So luckily, I was able to do it the right way and cause no mentions. And then they've seen each other multiple times, and they're perfectly fine with being around the kids. So everything, like I said before, everything went as smooth as possible. But trust me, I had no idea. It's something that it don't get talked about enough.
No, it doesn't. And one of the things about it is there's always going to be some trepidation with that introduction because, like, all three of us have been in relationships that haven't worked. So there's that trepidation, like, I'm going to introduce this person to my child.
Yeah.
And there's still a small percentage of me that's like, and if this doesn't work, I just introduce someone to my child and then she's gone in the next 3 months or the next 6 months. And
Yep.
then what kind of trauma does that place on my child? That's a really big thing that, you have to work through as a man as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge. And but I think, it goes back to, the comment at the top of the this stranded one that the level of preparation gives you confidence.
Mm,
And you're never gonna, marriage is a dynamic thing. And you're never gonna have the answers to all the questions because the questions are y'all are constantly changing and your life is dynamic. And so, but your preparation of how you handle conflict, how we're going to communicate, how we're going to come with, a common way to discipline, all those things just help you say, no matter what, we're going to keep the boat flowing this way. But it takes time. And as much as we can pull things forward for young cats, I think, they can choose whether they're going to be prepared or not. I wish my situation had been as smooth as you. John and I talk a lot about that was some of the most impactful, hardest seasons as a baby daddy dealing with that new man. And like John, I've got two marriages that didn't work. The first one I imploded, and the second one I just wasn't able to handle the added dynamic of being a stepdad and handling a second marriage when I still had internal work to do.
mm,
So that one didn't work. But I remember distinctly with the first wife meeting her first husband after me, and it was tough. And it was the only time where I felt like I remember telling my dad, I said, Dad, if something cracks off at my house or down at their house, it's because of X, Y, Z, right? Like you can get in that space. But that helps having somebody you can at least say that to talk you out of some stupidity. And that's like one of our main pillars is like, you got to have a tribe of dudes around you that say, yeah, man, I get what you're saying, but let's go get a burger and, put that firearm away and don't go to that house. Don't do something stupid, right?
Yeah.
Let's go eat something. What have you surrounded yourself with to prepare you or to help you with, tense things that come up, as you're navigating this?
So going back to the military, when I got out, I got diagnosed with PTSD. So I had to get a therapist for the longest. So therapy actually helped me out a lot. Cause I mean, at the end of the day, I'm still young. I'm 34 years old. So like all my friends, all my close friends, they're not married. They don't have a lot of kids. Like I don't have friends that I can just go up to and talk about my past relationships, my divorce. Like, they don't have the same experience as me. So I had to lean on therapy a lot. So therapy was always my go-to. I'm actually looking to get back into therapy now, just to have someone to talk to, just because, not saying that I can't talk to my friends, but they just don't understand exactly what I'm going through. So therapy has definitely been a lifesaver for me.
Mm. So let me just put this out there. That's what we're here for. That's what we're building. And I know if you're comfortable, you can stop down the office or stop at the
I
pod or
I figured it'll
anytime.
get brought up one time. I think it was last year I came to your office. I was like, "Look, I got a question
Yeah,
for you," and we talked because I was about to have a mental breakdown one day, and so
yeah.
trust me, I get it.
Yeah. And we all need it. Like, one of the things that I realize with building this community that we're building is that there are so many more people like us than we realize, that have experienced things similar to us than we realize. When I first sat down with Burgess and had a conversation with him, I was like, yo, and it's not a shot at Burgess. It's like, if he made it, I'm good. I can do this too.
Hey,
Like, because Burgess has been through some fire, man. And for him to come out and be the type of man he is right now, I'm like, all right, I can put in the work and I can get to that point as well. But having that tribe around you is so important. Men that you can trust, or professional help that you can go to as well. It's essential, and I wish more men would really lean into that
yeah,
because it's needed at such a high level. So you're not doing something stupid to yourself, to your kids, or to your BM in some kind of crazy, chaotic situation because you're not able to regulate yourself.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crucial. I had a conversation, L, just this week with a close family member, and he was describing some steps he was going to take. He's in a pretty tight situation, and he's got some hard decisions to make, and he communicated to me that he was going to make a decision that wasn't even my realm of possibility. Like, I wasn't even thinking you were going to make that decision. I know. There's bad decisions, and then there's that decision that's like, I like what? And I remember talking to him and saying, listen, just understand that whatever you're going through, you do not have to lift that plate by yourself.
Mm.
You got to divide the load. So when we talk to men, um, and they say, hey, I'm going through this thing, and you say, well, who you talking to? I don't really want to talk to anybody about it. Okay. Um, and well, who are you? How are you using your time, or what are you pouring your time into? Oh, I'm going home, I'm on the phone, or I'm in an additional relationship now. Okay. And so when I hear that, that's a man who's painted himself into a situation, medicating with whatever, a relationship, video games, pornography, whatever. And he is putting himself in a position where he's gonna have to lift all the weight. And and eventually that bar gets too tough. And we're here just trying to say, hey man, you do not need to do that. There's other people, believe me, that have gone through exactly what you're going through, or very similar, in an intense way, and like Elle said, have come through the other side. What I tell men is, don't take as long to come out the other side as I did.
Yeah.
Is make those course corrections early, um, but do make them, because man, you and your kids will benefit. And that's the other thing we try to get men to think about is like, hey, you're doing this thing and you're really trying to manage yourself. But the better you manage yourself and heal and feed yourself, man, it's tenfold benefit for your kids if you can think about it that way. Um,
Yeah.
One thing we stress, I love that you brought up counseling. I think it's a stigma with men of color to feel like, hey, I need to sit down and tell somebody my issues. We're soft, you're a punk, it's feminine, all those stigmas that get hung on that. I wouldn't have made it um, through that real intense period, post divorce both times, if I hadn't had people to talk to. There's no way. So I applaud you for just putting it out there. Yo, it might have taken one thing to get you there, but you recognize it benefited, across the board. Are there any books or John and I are book of readers, and we consume podcasts, stuff like that. Any
Mhm.
resources that, help keep your mind right, or, that you look to for parenting or anything like that, or
Um, nothing that jumps off the top of my head. But nowadays, like, you Google it, it pops up everywhere.
Mhm.
So like the second I pop up a question, I ask Google a question, I'm receiving reels, I'm receiving podcasts, I'm receiving everything. So like I just try to soak in everything I can.
Mhm.
I don't have nothing that I just like go ahead and jump straight into. But I do click on random reels, I click on random stories, click on random blogs and articles, and I always find something that can relate to what I'm going through. So I want to get back into reading. I'd be so busy nowadays, but I there's a book that L recommended me that I actually bought that's sitting over here on my bookshelf that I plan on reading one day. But yeah, one day I'll get to it. But
There you go.
yeah, but to be honest, I just use the resources around me. I don't have nothing specific, but if I see something that catches my eye, I'll look into it, see if I can pull things from it, and do it like that.
Oh, that's what it is, right? It's finding resources when the resources are needed, right? And having the skills to research the necessary things that you're able to research. So it's a lot of self-reflection. All right, here's an issue I have right now. Now, do I have the skills to go solve that or come close to solving that in the best way possible? And that sounds like exactly what you're doing there, and that's awesome. But one of the other things that we talk about here is finances. You just said 6 kids.
Yeah. Yes.
Brother, that is a lot going on there.
Yes,
So,
it
what do
is.
the finances look like? That you're like, I got to scale up now. I got to get to this level. This level's not good enough anymore. Like, what's that like, man?
Yeah, finances I ain't gonna lie, finances is tough right now. It is tough. My fiance, she's blessed with a really good job. I'll say
Okay.
that. So she was financially stable before me. So that was a blessing. And then as you know, I've been teaching for 3 years and I'm still finding my way to make it up the pay scale myself, and doing my classes and everything. But I'm not even gonna lie, it's a struggle. Some days I feel like I have everything figured out. Some days I'm stressing over how I'm gonna take this class to get up to that pay scale I need to get. Like one day I want to you know get my master's, and then one day I want to become a national certified teacher, but I got to start where I'm at and slowly build myself up. But these kids and these sports and these extracurricular activities, yeah, it's tough. But I make do with what I got. My background in the military, not I get VA disability for what I experienced in the military, and that helps tremendously. Without that, I don't know what I'd be doing right now. But I just take it a day at a time.
Uh-huh.
I'm currently studying to do my praxis right now, so I can make it up to scale. So I take it a day at a time. I try not to get too overwhelmed, but it does get complicated at times. But I have a amazing woman that's helping me. We're helping each other.
Is she the saver? Now, usually in a couple, there's a saver and a spender. And is she the saver? That's
Yeah, she's definitely a saver. I'm blowing my check, but it's a lot. But I'm not just blowing it on just like random stuff. Like my daughter, she's in gymnastics, and
Oh, that's
she
expensive.
does not she does dance, she does ballet, she does everything in one. She got competitions every other weekend that we spend the money on. She's going to PA this weekend to go to a big competition out there. Like,
Mm.
so I'm spending my money wisely, but it comes and goes. My son's in boxing. Then I got to
Oh,
worry about paying for my personal classes. And then I got a newborn that's about to be a year next Friday. So I'm spending money on him because he's getting bigger and bigger every day.
yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
working on it.
It's an investment, man, and it goes so fast. I think you have kids a little older than Jeremy,
Well,
right?
yeah. I think uh my youngest is like the same age as your daughter.
Yeah.
They're just
Yep.
about because I think they've met before.
Yeah. They met a
Um,
couple times.
so do you have a specific plan in place when it comes to finances, you and your fiance, or is it just like you don't spend, you don't spend, or like what do y'all do, or what did you just buy, or is there a
And she
plan?
like,
No, I
Jeremy,
mean, so
here's
I'm
your
not
here's your
really
allowance.
nah. So I'm not even really the big spender. I like to buy little mini things. But I have, to be honest with you guys, I have everything I need.
Mm,
I'm big into video games. I'm currently in my like gaming setup area where I have 3 monitors, a gaming PC, my PlayStation. Like I have
uh,
everything I need. So like all my extra money, it goes straight to the kids.
beautiful.
My car's paid off. I get paid from the military. They're paying for half of my degree. So
Nice.
like I'm not a big spender. I don't travel much, even though as much as I would want to, I don't travel much. I'm just focused in on the moment. And then I know eventually I'll get to the place where I want to be. And then that's when I'll figure things out and start splurging a little bit more. But to be honest, I deal with what I need to deal with, which is my kids. I'm good as of right now. Um, and I know that day will come where eventually I'll be making more money. I'll have everything figured out to where it'll be a day where I can focus on me.
Yeah,
There you go, man. That's beautifully said. There it is, right?
it really is.
Um, w- One of the other things that we love to talk about here is um, our spiritual well-being, our spiritual fitness specifically. And in some of the things that you had wrote, you mentioned spirituality as being a guiding light for you.
Mhm.
What role has spirituality played in helping you navigate, you know, to be blunt, a failed marriage, and then the blending of that family, and then the introduction and all the things that come with that?
It's been a major part. Growing up, I went to church every single Sunday. I was one of those kids. I was faithfully in there every Sunday with my grandma, and I went to church. And then I kind of lost that growing up. The older you get, kids they kind of shy away from it because they want to go out and party and hang out with their friends. But then I experienced a lot of things in the military. That in my 8 years in the military, I experienced a lot. Then I had kids, I got married, I got divorced, and just life happened. Like everything happened so fast. So I had to focus on myself and just on my mental well-being. And luckily I found a woman that was very spirituality, very spiritual, and she introduced me back into church, and we go
Mm,
every Sunday now.
mm,
And it's taught me a lot to help me just become the continue being the man that I am, continue becoming better every single day. And without that, who knows where my life would have turned with everything I've experienced. So it does play a big part of my life.
Yeah. Yeah, staying in that spot there because being, that it's funny, you asked that question because I was definitely coming into that lane of, hey, when we take that blow and we're on the mat and we failed at one of the most important things we're supposed to fail at, I mean, supposed to succeed at, right? That marriage. There is a time where you have to take stock of yourself as a man,
mm.
and it takes courage to enter the ring again and say, I am willing to push chips all in again. Not only with that person, but with yourself and your capacity to be a good husband. I don't know if that happened with you, El, but I knew like
Mhm.
when the second one failed, I was like, yo, maybe I'm not built for this. Maybe there's something just so wrong with me that, man, I'm just not seeing it. Right. Um, Jeremy, when did you know, okay, I'm willing to step back in the ring and I'm ready? Were there like lessons, things that you recognize yourself when you were younger or in your first marriage is like, oh, okay, I'm not that same dude anymore. And so I'm
Um,
confident carrying forward that, we're going to be okay.
so funny thing is, right? I've actually been married twice. Um, a lot of people don't know that because I really don't talk about my first marriage because I got married at 19 when I first joined the military. I did one of those. Oh, listen, I did one of those. Got married. I met the girl. We got married 6 months later,
Hey,
and it we got divorced 2 years later. Like it
hey.
was just like it was quick and fast in a hurry.
Yeah.
But at the same time, obviously we got a divorce. I got remarried again because I had kids. But at the same time, I also understood like my life is not over. Like I still have a lot to live for. I have kids that I have to live for. I have kids that are expecting me to be there for them, and they look up to me. So at the end of the day, it was like I need to push on for them, and
Yeah.
I need to make sure I'm able to do that. If I'm not mentally well, I can't provide for my kids the way they need me to provide for them. So I've always looked at it as my life is not over. I still got so much to live for. I was what, 28 or something when I got divorced. I can't remember exactly the age, but like I was still young. Like we were married for 6+ years, but at the same time, I'm still a young male. Like I got a lot to live for. I got a lot to experience, a lot of things to do. Life goes on. And I just need to be able to continue that. So that was always my logic.
Yeah.
Um, that was just always my logic.
So
Okay.
the plan was like, if I could just continue to grow and work on myself, eventually the right person is going to be introduced into my life. Is that
Correct.
did I sum that up
Yeah,
pretty well?
correct. There's a
Oh,
better way
okay.
of saying it. Yes,
Okay.
100%.
Yeah, I know personally. Like, be what you were just saying there. I experienced some of that. Like, I was married once as a young man. That thing, I I took it out back and shot it a couple times, like, and then kicked it in the grave. I screwed that thing up bad, and then I met my oldest, mother. We didn't get married, but, we had a kid together, and then, I got married again, and that thing didn't work too well either, and then, like, and after that, I was just like, "Man, I'm just not good at this thing,"
Right.
and I was looking through maybe it's my daddy's fault, and that's why, because and then you realize at a certain point, let me stop and let me get to work on me.
Yeah.
Like, it's the same thing, like, we all play athletics. It's like, if my jump shot isn't good, let me go figure out how I can improve my jump shot, and that's what I had to do.
Yeah,
Uh
what I had to notice was everybody's not perfect. Everything you do is not perfect. Everybody you meet's not perfect.
Mhm,
Every It's just nothing is perfect.
mhm.
So I think that has a lot to do with it all. So if you're able to understand that, I think you're able to come back from anything.
Yeah, that's well put. Yeah, if you understand that, like, imperfection is part of that process, and it's part of all of us. You accept that imperfection, and you just keep working. Like, it's weird, right? Because we understand that we're imperfect, or we should understand that we're imperfect, but we're always striving, in a sense, for perfection, because that's what growth is. Growth is the gradual incline towards a peak of perfection that you'll never reach, essentially, right?
Yeah.
So, like, it's continuing to grow, continuing to work.
Yeah. Well, we said, probably, 4 or 5 months ago when we were talking about there's standards. Like the standard, you're always working toward the standard, right? And there's some days, man, where you're just not going to be there. You're going to be short with your wife, or maybe you double overspent or something. You're just human. You're going to do stuff, and hopefully you don't do stuff to just implode a relationship. But I think the sign of a mature man is his ability to quickly course correct and keep moving with the same intensity as if he never messed up, right? And
Mm.
but it takes reps. It takes good examples around you. You seem to have it kind of internally and have learned that, through your experiences. But some cats really need, a strong voice in the ear. Like, no, 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 you're better than this. You're going to get back up, and keep moving. But man, I applaud you for just saying, hey, I love what you just said. My life is not over. This thing happened. I got to live because these kids are expecting this from me. Um, I struggled on the flip side of that is like, man, I blew it. They don't, I don't deserve to be in a position as a dad where bringing that to the table. It was a weird kind of thing in my mind I had to get over. Um, so it's neat hearing it from a younger guy saying, no, 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 your life's not over. Let's go. Right. Um, so, um, I was going to lead the next question to you, Al. I was just piggybacking on that actually.
Oh, yeah, so I wanna dive into a philosophical type question, and that is, what is the legacy that you hope to leave when your children look back at your life? You got grandchildren, kids running around. What do you hope that your children look back and be like, "Yep, that was my dad." And they take that and they're like and they're giving it to your grandchildren, that same lesson, that same concept, those same fundamentals.
That's actually a good question. I think just mainly that their dad tried every single day, right? He didn't give up. He did what he had to do to make sure they grew up to become whoever they want to become. They were there for them because my kids mean the world to me. So I want them to know that I did all these long hours at work for them to make this money, but I was just also there for them. Like I also did everything I needed to do growing up to become who I am to help them become who they will be in the future. Um so I think that's what I most want them to look back on.
Man, I love that response. And one of the things, like what you said there, that so many men that we've spoken to have said something in that world, just for them to look back and say, "Yo, dad never quit." Like, that's it. Dad never quit. He had a bad knee, he had a bad elbow, he crashed his car, whatever it is, he
Yeah.
just kept going. And I
Yeah.
think that's the legacy that we all wanna leave in some sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just kind of that same vein. I mean, you have your son is the oldest of your first set of kids, right?
Yes, he's 9.
Okay. So as you're, thinking about raising him and you reflect on maybe how you were raised and your relationship with your dad or your stepdad, what are some things you're really intentional about with both your kids, but especially your son?
Just being there. So like I didn't grow up with my biological father. My mom married my stepdad when I was super young. And when they got a divorce, I was in what, ninth grade? And I took it pretty hard. I took it harder than anybody else in my family. My two youngest sisters, they're still very, very close with him, and I honestly don't have a relationship with him anymore. And it still hurts me to this day that I don't have a relationship with him. But it never needed to turn out the way it did. So now that I've gone through the same type of experience where I've gotten a divorce with his mother, I don't ever want him to be like, "Oh, my dad disappeared. He got a divorce, he got remarried, and he forgot about me." So that's what I want to make sure um that I wanna make sure that I'm still there for him, that he knows that at the end of the day, I'm still your father, and I love you very much, and we gonna make it work. So that's I think that's the biggest for me.
Man, that's excellent, man. And that's really insightful that you picked up on that because even though your kids are really young, just I don't know if I even shared this with you before, Latch. That feeling of when you get remarried, that your kids feel like they're gonna have less of you or something is gonna shift in y'all's relationship is real. And I remember getting married to, my third and final wife, and my kids were in their 20s and almost 30. Well, no, they were in their mid-20s. And two of them had really strong visceral reactions to us getting married because they
Mhm,
felt like, Dad, you just getting divorced and we're just gonna get this time for you and you're getting married again.
mhm.
And I was like, that never would have crossed my mind that a 27-year-old and a 25-year-old be thinking about that. So, I applaud you for getting ahead of the curve and being explicit about, yo, even though this is going on, even though this thing happened, I'm always gonna be present.
Yeah, it's always good to I mean, it's not necessarily a good thing, but because I experienced it as a child, I kind of knew where this could potentially lead to if I didn't get ahead of it. Right? Because at the end of the day, like, yeah, he was my stepdad, but he raised me 95% of my life. So
Mm.
at the end of the day that we fell apart, I still look at him as my father. So because I experienced that with him, it's easy for me to look back on that and just be like, I don't want that to happen again in the next generation. So
Breaking those curses, man, that's what that's all about right there, putting a stop to certain things that have no right to continue, right? That's it right there. Well, Mr. Blackwell, Jeremy, we truly appreciate your time. A lot of great insights, a lot of great information, and some very valuable wisdom for the audience. At this point, we usually allow our guests to give any shout outs or anything that they want to talk about themselves. So the floor is yours, sir.
I don't really have much. My Instagram is more black. More BLCVK. I kind of have a little slogan that goes with it. It's more life, more love, more black. It's a little thing I'm trying to build. But at the end of the day, I appreciate you guys for having me on. I never would imagine myself being invited to a podcast. But it's a great experience. I very much appreciate the conversation. And I just want to thank you guys both. I know I've came to you a couple times and we've had a couple conversations, and we weren't even close at the time. I needed someone to talk to, and I was like, you know what, L just looks like the guy to talk to, and and because
He's been through some things.
Hey,
yeah,
I heard word on the street is
yeah,
might have some
and
wisdom.
I don't even remember what I needed to talk to you about, but I just knew I needed a male teacher, male figure that's experienced something of what I'm going through in that moment. And you were the person I picked, and I'm forever grateful. And the same thing with Mr. Burgess. Me and Mr. Burgess, we've been talking a lot more this year.
Yeah.
And you've been a great help in everything I've been doing. So I just wanted to thank both of you gentlemen for helping me.
Hey, feelings mutual, man. Great respect for your craft. I've told you that before. And just seeing you in this realm and seeing how just, it must be that West Coast thing, West Coast smooth, just, hey, I need to borrow some of that woosah.
Yeah.
But
Hey,
thank you,
man.
man.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate you. And the fact that you value, I know I'm speaking for myself right here, and I'm sure Burgess feels the same, that you value our opinion, our thoughts, and our insights is, I mean, I can't even put words into something like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're just grateful. That's all. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, until next time, I'm John,
I'm Kelly.
and that was math teacher extraordinaire, Jeremy Blackwell. Peace.
Peace.